They were given one final chance to avoid a war they could never win. This was not a threat, but a simple statement of fact, one the Vorath Dominion was too arrogant to comprehend. Ambassador Kaelen Vance stared at the star charts on his data slate, the cold blue glow illuminating the grim, tired lines on his face. His vessel, the Star Guard, was a study in deliberate modesty. Its hull was unadorned, its engine signature muted. Every component built to reinforce a galactic community's carefully cultivated perception of humanity as capable but unambitious, technologically adequate but never exceptional. It was a perception that was about to become their greatest weapon, and the Vorath's most fatal miscalculation. For 3 long, grinding years, he had tried to reason with the Vorath Dominion. He had sat across polished tables from creatures that viewed diplomacy as a prelude to consumption. 17 human outposts, each a beacon of hope and hard work, had been reduced to floating dust and frozen memories. Countless lives, each with dreams and families, erased with a casual flick of a Vorath weapons array. The Dominion showed no remorse, only a cold, metallic pride in their brutal efficiency. They had looked upon humanity's patience and had mistaken it for impotence, our compassion for a flaw in our genetic code. The Star Guard slid smoothly into its designated docking cradle at Gamma Terminus, the neutral station that hung in the void between rival powers. It was a place meant for diplomacy, a fragile glass menagerie where predators and prey were supposed to talk instead of tear. Commander Eva Rostova, the station's director, met them at the airlock. Her face, a roadmap of decades spent mediating 1,000 petty conflicts, was tight with a palpable apprehension Kaelen had never seen in her before. The Vorath delegation arrived 6 hours ago, she said, her voice low enough that the sound wouldn't carry to the listening posts she knew were everywhere. War Chief Draxus is leading them personally. He's already made his demands. He broadcast them on open channels the moment his ship dropped out of warp. Kaelen nodded slowly, the motion feeling heavy, as if his head were filled with lead. He had faced Draxus before. The Vorath commander was a pure predator, a being of pure, refined aggression who viewed any form of negotiation as a fundamental weakness, a sign of a species unfit for the harsh realities of the cosmos. What does he want this time, Eva? Kaelen asked, though he already knew the answer would be worse than the last. The entire Cygnus sector, she replied, her voice flat. Every world, every outpost, every drifting piece of rock we've laid claim to, and an annual tribute of 2 million stellar credits from Earth's central treasury. He says refusal is not an option. He says it means a systematic obliteration of our core worlds, starting with Mars. On the bridge of the Star Guard, Captain Islaw Reed listened to the feed from the ambassador's pin mic, her hands curling into tight, white-knuckled fists at her side. Her official duty was to protect the ambassador, to be his shield and his chariot. But every fiber of her being, every instinct honed in secret training simulations, screamed at her to fight back, to unleash the hidden potential she knew her seemingly modest ship contained. The meeting chamber was a perfect circle of simmering tension. Delegates from a dozen species watched with a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. Draxus and his commander stood like statues of obsidian and wrath, their battle armor seeming to absorb the very light from the room. Draxus himself was a mountain of corded sinew and menace, his eyes like chips of frozen granite that held no light, only a promise of violence. Ambassador Vance, Draxus's voice was a low rumble, like grinding tectonic plates. You return to waste our time with words when your fate is already written in the ashes of your colonies. Your persistence is quaint. We seek only coexistence, War Chief, Kaelen stated, his tone carefully even, a placid lake hiding unfathomable depths. There is no need for more bloodshed. The galaxy is vast enough for all. We can share resources, exchange technologies that would benefit both our civilizations. Draxus laughed then, a harsh, grating sound that had no humor in it, only scorn. It echoed in the silent chamber, making several of the smaller delegates flinch. We do not share with inferiors. We do not trade with prey. We take. It is the natural order. Your colonies burn not because we are cruel, but because you lack the fundamental strength to protect them. This is the universe's simplest equation. With a wave of his clawed hand, Draxus activated a hologram that blossomed above the central table. The images were stark, high-resolution depictions of the smoldering ruins of settlements Kaelen knew intimately. Aurora Prime, a haven for xenobiologists. Serenity Valley, where the first off-world wheat had been successfully harvested. All gone, replaced by craters and ghostly silence. The other delegates shifted in their seats, a wave of uneasy discomfort moving through them at the casual, unvarnished brutality. These were peaceful communities, War Chief, Kaelen said, the images searing themselves into his memory. Fuel for the fire that was beginning to burn in his soul. They were scientists and farmers. They threatened no one. Their existence was a threat. Draxus countered, his voice rising for the first time. Weakness is a contagion. It invites challenge. It destabilizes. The strong have a duty to purge it, to maintain the purity of strength. This is the universe's first and only law. Your peaceful communities were a stain, and we cleanse them. Kaelen took a slow, measured breath. He reached into his jacket and produced a small, luminous data crystal. Then let us speak of strength. This contains a detailed proposal for shared mining operations in the asteroid belts of the neutral zones, and joint colonization rights for 3 world systems deemed uninhabitable by either of our species alone. We can build together, War Chief. With a contemptuous swipe of his arm, Draxus sent the crystal clattering across the polished floor, its light skittering into a corner. We do not negotiate. You have 30 cycles to surrender your territories and acknowledge Vorath supremacy. If you do not, we will scour them from the galaxy, and we will start with the children. The silence in the room was absolute, a physical weight pressing down on everyone. Kaelen Vance slowly, deliberately, stood up. He walked to the corner, knelt, and retrieved the data crystal, wiping the non-existent dust from its surface. His diplomatic composure remained, a mask of calm, but the light in his eyes had undergone a fundamental shift. The last ember of hope had gone out, replaced by the cold, hard light of resolve. You have mistaken our patience for a permanent condition, he said, his voice soft, yet carried to every corner of the dead silent chamber. He activated the secure comm unit on his wrist. Command, this is Ambassador Vance. Authorization Sigma Niner. Execute contingency Jericho. I say again, Jericho is authorized. A voice, crisp and devoid of emotion, crackled back immediately. Confirmed, Ambassador. Authorization validated. Contingency Jericho is now active. Earth Command acknowledges. The clock is 0. Draxus scowled, the ridges on his brow furrowing deeply. What pathetic game are you playing now, human? What is this, Jericho? Kaelen looked up, and for the first time, he smiled. It was a smile devoid of all warmth, a mere flexing of facial muscles that never reached his eyes. That, he said, was the end of our diplomatic patience. You have chosen your path, War Chief. Do not complain about the destination. 3 solar cycles later, War Chief Draxus stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the World Breaker, and observed as Armada approached the human colony of New Arcadia. 50 Vorath warships, a formidable battle group that had shattered planetary defenses and broken the will of a dozen species. It was a force of overwhelming, undeniable power. Target confirmed, War Chief, his tactical officer announced, a note of board routine in his voice. New Arcadia colony. Population approximately 38,000. Scans show standard civilian power grids, agricultural biosigns, and thermal profiles consistent with basic manufacturing. No military-grade energy signatures. No shield emitters. No orbital defenses. Draxus allowed himself a thin, sharp smile. This would be another simple, brutal lesson in Vorath supremacy. Another example to show the galaxy the cost of defiance. He could already imagine the panic distress signals, the futile cries for help that would never come. On the surface of New Arcadia, in a command center buried deep beneath a seemingly ordinary administrative building, General Idris Valerius monitored the approaching red blips on his tactical display. To the colonists, he was a simple, if somewhat reclusive, planetary administrator, a paper pusher. That comforting illusion dissolved the moment his voice, calm and authoritative, echoed across the colony's hidden comms network. All units, This is Valerius. Condition Vermilion. I repeat, Condition Vermilion. Operation Steel River is now active. Across New Arcadia, the peaceful facade fell away in a breathtakingly synchronized transformation. The sides of barns slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing racks of sleek, targeting-locked missile batteries. Irrigation towers and the vast farmlands shuddered and reconfigured, their sections realigning into barrels of heavy plasma cannons. What appeared to be communication dishes swiveled and locked onto the approaching fleet, emitting powerful jamming signals. In a quiet sector of the colony, Dr. Alara Eris, a woman known for her prize-winning roses and gentle demeanor with the children, carefully sealed the door of her greenhouse. She descended a hidden staircase, the air shifting from the humid center of Earth to the sterile, ozone-tinged atmosphere of a military command post. She sat down at a sophisticated fire control console, her gentle hands suddenly moving with the practiced ease of a master pianist. "Perimeter defense grid is online," she announced, her voice crisp and professional over the command channel. "Point defense network synced and active. All weapons are hot and awaiting firing solutions." High above, the Vorath fleet moved into a standard attack formation, a classic hammer and anvil maneuver that had served them well for centuries. Draxus gave the order. "Begin the attack. Wipe the stain from the stars." The Vorath fleet unleashed a coordinated volley of incandescent plasma fire. Lances of destructive energy streaked down toward the colony, meant to incinerate everything in a single, cleansing fire. But instead of impacting on helpless structures and flesh, the blast dissipated in shimmering waves of light against a brilliant hexagonal blue energy shield that flared into existence around the entire settlement, humming with immense power. "Impossible!" Draxus roared, surging to his feet on his bridge. "How do they have a planetary shield? Our scans detected nothing. Where is it coming from?" Before his sensor officer could formulate an answer, the surface of New Arcadia answered for them. From what it looked like barren plains and forested hills, a storm of hypersonic missiles rose on pillars of fire. They didn't fly in straight lines. They moved with unnatural, predatory intelligence, weaving through the Vorath point of fence fire as if it were standing still. The ships that had conquered star systems, the pride of the Vorath fleet, began to vanish one by one in silent, blossoming flashes of light. "They're tearing us apart." A voice screamed over the crumbling command channel. "Their weapons are ignoring our shields. Full retreat. All ships. Disengage and jump to warp." On the surface, General Valerius watched the tactical display, his face an impassive mask. "Negative," he said, his voice calm, almost quiet. "Contain the engagement. Activate the warp dampener. No one leaves. They wanted a lesson. Let's make sure they learn it." A second wave of missiles launched. These were smaller, faster, and even more intelligent. They chased down the fleeing Vorath ships, identifying engine signatures and weak points in their armor with terrifying efficiency. They were hunters. In under 5 minutes, the Vorath fleet, a force designed to subjugate worlds, was reduced to an expanding, glittering cloud of debris, a permanent monument to their arrogance in the cold dark around New Arcadia. The news rippled through the galactic communication networks at the speed of light, a shockwave of disbelief and panic. On Mars Command, the heart of humanity's true military might, Fleet Admiral Anya Sharma reviewed the after-action reports with a slight, cold smile. Her comms console was immediately flooded with priority inquiries from 100 different worlds. The Alterian representative, Counselor Tvan, was among the first, his usually serene face etched with panic. "Admiral Sharma, we have received disturbing reports from the New Arcadia system. Our long-range sensors confirm it. How did a simple agricultural colony destroy an entire Vorath battle group? The physics of it, it makes no sense." Anya's reply was smooth, practiced, a performance she had perfected over decades. "Enhanced planetary defense systems, Counselor. Nothing more. Our people on the frontier are very resourceful. We decided to invest more heavily in protecting our families. It seems the investment paid off. But the energy signatures," Tvan pressed, his voice trembling. "They matched weapons-grade antimatter containment bursts and phase array plasma. The level of firepower was off the scale. That is not a defensive system. That is a military garrison of the highest order. I assure you, Counselor, Anya replied, her smile never wavering. Everything we deployed was within the Federation's very broad guidelines for colonial self-defense. Perhaps the Vorath simply underestimated the power of human determination to protect our homes. On the Vorath homeworld, a planet of jagged volcanic rock and iron skies, Supreme Warlord Grax received the news of his fleet's total destruction with incandescent, world-shaking rage. His finest commander was dead. 57 of his best warships were gone. The humiliation was a physical pain. The humans have deceived us, he bellowed at his cowering intelligence officers, his voice shaking the very foundations of Command Citadel. They have hidden their claws behind a mask of weakness. They have made us look like fools. He backhanded his chief analyst, sending the smaller Vorath sprawling. Our intelligence reports said they were farmers. Poets. Where did this come from? Sir, we are reviewing all our data on human capabilities. The analyst stammered, wiping green blood from his lip. It appears our information may have been deliberately incomplete. They have been playing a game with us. Grax slammed his fist on his command console, cracking the reinforced metal surface. He would not be humiliated. His reputation, the very fear that held his empire together, was at stake. This insult demanded an answer written in fire. This changes nothing. Their one trick will not save them. Prepare the Annihilation Fleet. All 200 vessels of the 3rd Battle Group. We will target their Kepler Research Station. If they wish to play games with hidden weapons, we will show them what concentrated, undeniable military power truly looks like. We will grind their station into dust. On the surface of New Arcadia, life was already returning to a carefully constructed normal. The weapon systems retracted back into their hidden housings. The powerful shield generators powered down, their hum fading to silence. The farmers, who moments before had been gunnery sergeants, went back to tending their crops. Dr. Eris was back in her greenhouse, gently pruning a rose bush as if her world had not just fundamentally shifted the balance of power in the galaxy, but in a secure, quantum-shielded communication room buried deep beneath the colony's main habitation dome. General Valerius was having a very different conversation. The face on his screen was obscured by a light-dampening field, but the voice was one of absolute authority. General, the Vorath took the bait perfectly, Valerius reported. Indeed, their response was within predicted parameters. And our capabilities? We eliminated the threat without revealing more than 15% of the colony's total defensive potential. They believe they saw our best. They are wrong. Excellent work, Idris. Intelligence intercepts confirm they are escalating. The Annihilation Fleet is mobilizing for a strike on Kepler. Are you and your people prepared for Phase 2? General Valerius allowed himself a small, cold smile, the first true emotion he had shown all day. Sir, we have been preparing for this moment for over a century. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity's courtesy was a choice, not a limitation, and choices can be revoked. The communication ended. Valerius walked outside, the fresh, artificially maintained air a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the command bunker. He looked up at the sky, where the stars were once again clear, the debris field already being tracted away by silent, automated drones. Somewhere out there, the Vorath Empire was planning their next move. They thought they had learned a terrifying secret about humanity. The truth was, they had only seen the first, carefully revealed car in a hand that held a royal flush. The mask was beginning to slip, but humanity was not ready to show its true face just yet. There were still more lessons to teach, and the Vorath, it seemed, were eager students. The Vorath Annihilation Fleet, 200 warships strong, emerged from warp at the edge of the Kepler system in a perfectly coordinated flash of distorted light. Warlord Grax, having taken personal command, stood on the bridge of the new flagship, the Final Judgment. He expected to see a small, vulnerable scientific outpost, a few research vessels floating nearby. What his sensors painted onto the main viewer made the air freeze in his secondary lungs. Kepler Station was not small. It was not a station at all, in any conventional sense. It was a fortress. A monstrous, angular construct of black alloy and glowing energy conduits, easily the size of a small moon. It was ringed by a dense cloud of automated weapon platforms, each one the size of a Vorath cruiser, humming with power levels that defy belief. "Sir, this does not match any of our intelligence," his sensor operator whispered, the fear in his voice palpable. "The station is at least 20 times larger than projected. I am reading power signatures comparable to a medium-sized star. Weapons. I am counting thousands of weapons emplacements. This is not a research facility. This is a battle station." Before Grax could process this new, terrifying reality, a crisp, clear communication hail came through. The woman who appeared on the main screen wore a simple, dark uniform. She had sharp, intelligent eyes that held no fear, only a calm, analytical focus. It was Director Eva Rostova. "I am Director Rostova of Kepler Station. You are in violation of sovereign human space. Your fleet is designated as hostile. You have 30 seconds to reverse your course, power down your weapons, and leave the system immediately, or you will be fired upon." Grax found his voice a roar of pure, unadulterated fury. "You dare threaten the Annihilation Fleet with your pathetic station? We have 200 warships. You are just another human deception, a hollow shell trying to bluff its way to survival. We will reduce you to your constituent atoms." Rostova did not change her expression. It remained as calm and impassive as a frozen lake. "You have been warned. What happens next is a direct consequence of your choice." The channel closed. Grax, his mind clouded by rage and a growing, nagging dread, turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy that station. Unleash everything. I want to see it break." The Annihilation Fleet opened fire. It was a spectacle of raw power, a cataclysm of energy that would have vaporized a planet. Plasma beams, antimatter warheads, kinetic kill rods. Every weapon in the Vorath arsenal lit up the void, converging on Kepler Station. The resulting flash of light was blinding. When it faded, every Vorath on the bridge stared in stunned, horrified silence. Kepler Station hung in space, completely untouched. Its multi-layered shields hadn't even flickered. The station had absorbed the combined firepower of an entire fleet, without sustaining a single scratch. "By the blood of the first brood." Grax whispered, his bravado finally cracking, replaced by the cold chill of realization. This was no trick. This was a truth so far beyond their understanding it was terrifying. Then, Kepler Station fired back. Weapon ports, each larger than the final judgment itself, iris open all along its hull. The first shot was not a beam or a missile, but a pulse of pure, coherent gravity. It didn't just hit the lead Vorath ships. It passed through them, distorting space-time itself. 3 Vorath heavy cruisers were simply torn into spaghetti-like strands of metal and flesh, their atomic structures unraveled. The second shot was a lance of white-hot plasma, so concentrated it punched a clean hole through 5 ships lined up in formation, their reactors overloading in a chain reaction of destruction. Evasive action. Grax screamed, but it was useless. The station's weapons were tracking and firing with impossible speed and accuracy. They seemed to bend physics, hitting ships that were already attempting to warp away. On Kepler Station, Director Rostova watched the tactical readouts in her command center, a room filled with holographic displays, and officers who moved with the quiet efficiency of those who had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Ma'am, 60% of the Vorath fleet has been neutralized," reported Lieutenant Commander Carl Johnson from the primary weapons console. "The remaining ships are scattering and attempting to initiate emergency warp jumps." Rostova's reply was as calm as if she were ordering a cup of tea. "Negative. Activate the gravity well projectors. Full spectrum jamming. No survivors. We cannot allow a single byte of data regarding our true defensive capabilities to reach Vorath High Command. They chose this confrontation. They will live, or in this case die, with the consequences." Across the station, massive projectors flared to life, generating an immense gravitational field that twisted space, making any form of FTL travel impossible. The slaughter that followed was methodical, clinical, and absolute. The Vorath Annihilation Fleet, a force meant to inspire terror across the galaxy, was systematically erased from existence, ship by ship, until only the final judgment remained, adrift and crippled. The shock wave that rippled through the galactic community this time was not one of disbelief, but of primal fear. Governments scrambled. Alliances were questioned. The quiet, unassuming humans, the species everyone had patronized or ignored, had just demonstrated a level of technological and military supremacy that was incomprehensible. On Earth, in a secure bunker deep beneath the Alps, Prime Minister Liam Chin addressed the panicked inquiries from the Galactic Federation. His face was a mask of serene confidence. "We have always prioritized peaceful development and scientific advancement," he stated, his voice echoing across the galaxy. "Our defensive measures are merely robust. We believe in being prepared." The Vorath, unfortunately, mistook our preparedness for aggression. But the secret was out. The mask was off. Intelligence streams, monitored by Commander Eric Stone from his stealth ship, the Whisper, revealed the Vorath's final, desperate move. They were gathering everything. The Endmaker fleet, 3,000 ships, their entire remaining military might, pulled from every border, every garrison. It was a force of absolute final reckoning, and it was aimed at one target, Earth itself. They planned to crack the planet open and be done with the human problem forever. Admiral Anya Sharma stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Resolute, the flagship of a fleet that officially did not exist. She opened a channel to every hidden human command post, every sleeper ship, every massed installation. All commands, all stations. This is Admiral Sharma. The masquerade is over. The Vorath are coming for our home. They bring their endgame. We will bring ours. Activate the Soul Defense Network. I repeat, activate the Soul Defense Network. Let's show them what happens when they force humanity's hand. What happened next was not a mobilization. It was a revelation. The surface of Mars, the red planet, began to shift. Vast tracts of its rust-colored soil slid away, revealing continent-sized shipyards beneath, spewing forth thousands of warships of terrifying, alien design, sleek, black, and silent. Luna, Earth's moon, underwent a similar transformation. Its craters unfolded like metallic flowers, revealing a core of planetary defense cannons whose barrels were large enough to fly a capital ship through. The asteroid belt itself began to move, individual asteroids shedding their rocky shells to become weapons platforms and supply depots. The Vorath Endmaker fleet, 3,000 ships strong, dropped out of warp at the edge of the Sol system. Supreme Warlord Grax, on the bridge of his new flagship, the Last Vengeance, expected to see a few dozen outdated human defense vessels, a panicked world begging for mercy. What he saw made his multiple hearts seize in his chest. The Sol system was not a system. It was a fortress, a gauntlet, a wall of ships and weapons that stretched from the orbit of Mercury to the Kuiper Belt. 10,000 human vessels, at least, their designs unlike anything in any galactic database, their energy signatures blazing like newborn stars. 10,000 contacts, his sensor operator shrieked, the console before him flashing with catastrophic warnings. Their technology, the power readings, it shouldn't be possible. It defies known physics. Admiral Sharma's face appeared on Grax's main viewer. She looked calm, almost bored. Supreme Warlord Grax, you have pursued this course of action despite every opportunity to stand down. You have ignored our warnings, slaughtered our people, and now you come to our home. This is your final chance. Surrender your fleet, power down your weapons, and submit to human authority, or be annihilated. There will be no further offers. You dare! Grax screamed, his voice cracking with mixture of rage and sheer, undiluted terror. I will have your head. I will burn your world. All ships attack. Attack! We dare to hope you would be better, Sharma replied, her voice dropping to a near whisper that was somehow more terrifying than a scream. That hope has long since expired. The battle that followed was less a fight and more a demonstration, a surgical dissection of a military force. Human ships didn't just move fast. They seemed to teleport, appearing behind and inside Vor formations. Their weapons didn't just pierce Vor's shields. They ignored them entirely, as if the shields weren't even there. Vor's ships exploded not from direct hits, but from systems failures induced by targeted energy pulses. It was a one-sided, total extermination. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Isla Reed, now commanding her ship's true, unveiled form, watched as her vessel's main cannon, a gravity shear projector, dismantled a Vorath dreadnought with a single shot. "Ma'am, the enemy fleet cohesion has completely collapsed. They are just dying." "Continue the operation," Sharma said. "Leave no hostile asset functional." Within an hour, the Vorath Endmaker fleet, the greatest concentration of military power the galaxy had seen in a millennium, was gone, reduced to atoms. Only the last vengeance remained, its engines dead, its weapons silent, a ghost ship adrift in a sea of its own failure. Grax sat in his command throne, surrounded by the bodies of his bridge crew, the lights flickering around him. A final communication came through. "Supreme Warlord, your ship is the last. You can surrender and live to bear witness to the new order, or you can die with what remains of your honor. The choice is yours." Grax looked at the tactical display, at the thousands of human ships that now ruled the space. He thought his empire, his legacy, his lifetime of conquest. It was all dust. The humans had not been hiding out of fear. They had been hiding out of what? Patience? Curiosity? It didn't matter. He had lost a game he never knew he was playing. He reached for a hidden control panel on his throne. "We are Vorath," he whispered to the empty air. "We do not surrender." He triggered the last vengeance's self-destruct mechanism. The ship vanished in a brief. Final flash of light, Grax's last act of defiance. On Earth, billions watched the live broadcast, their minds struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. Their peaceful, everyday lives of his shield, hiding a sort of unimaginable strength. Prime Minister Liam Chun addressed the world, his voice steady and clear. "My fellow humans, for over a century, we have concealed our true capabilities from the galaxy. We did this not out of fear, but from profound hope that other species would see our example and choose a better path. A path of cooperation, not conquest. The Vorath Dominion chose otherwise. They saw our restraint as weakness, our patience as an opportunity. That era is now over. Across the galaxy, species who had secretly supported the Vorath, who had provided intelligence and looked the other way during the attacks, scrambled to send surrender accords and peace treaties. Those who had been humanity's true, quiet allies breathed sighs of immense relief. Weeks later, Ambassador Kaelen Vance stood once more before the reconvened Galactic Council. The room was utterly silent, the air thick with tension and awe. The man who faced him was not the polite, slightly weary diplomat they remembered. He stood straight and tall, his eyes holding the cold fire of a species that had finally, decisively, stopped pretending. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice echoing in the silence. "Humanity's period of perceived weakness is concluded. The experiment in unilateral pacifism is over. We will protect our own. We will protect those who stand with us as true allies. And to those who sought our destruction, who watched in silence or aided our attackers, you have now seen the consequence." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. The age of pretense is over. The mask is off. The future of this galaxy begins today. It will be a future where strength is used to protect, not to prey. We offered you our hand in friendship. Some of you took it. Others forced us to show you our fist. Do not make the same mistake twice. He gathered his data slate and turned, walking out of the chamber without a backward glance. Behind him, the silence broke into a cacophony of panicked voices, of urgent questions with no easy answers. The galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity was no longer the quiet neighbor. They were the guardians of the gate, and everyone now understood the terrifying, awesome truth that had been hidden in plain sight for over a century. The last warning had been given, and it had been ignored. Now, there would be no more warnings. Only the enduring, silent strength of a species that had finally come home to its power. If you enjoyed this story of hidden strength and galactic consequence, please like this video and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more epic tales from the edge of the cosmos.